Okay, I'm starting the Abrams build, and one of the first things I need to do is get rid of all this flex. Now, a lot of that goes away when you bolt the hull top on. It's kind of a unibody effect, but we can make it a lot better than that. And I've got some ideas, and I picked up some angle aluminum at Home Depot. These 36-inch long strips of 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch angle, that's 1/16 thick, are about $3 or $4 a piece. I just picked up a couple of them. I'm going to do something here on both sides. I think that's going to work just fine. We're going to cut it to length and epoxy that in place, and then I'll make cross braces, and I think that'll pretty much do it for I think that'll really brace it up and get rid of a lot of that flex. I think that'll really help quite a bit. Of course, the hand tech will go across the front. I'm not sure about a motor plate yet. I haven't got in that far. So that's going to be first, just trying to brace up this hull. I already checked the Komodo and it works fine to get rid of that track recoil. Got the brand new ball bearing gearbox just to put in here. So that'll be the first thing, is getting the hull braced up. Okay, I've cut 2 pieces of angle aluminum to length, and I've measured and notched them right here. This is for clearance for the turret rotation ring. It's very tight in there for that ring, so I notched them out there. Now this will be epoxied and clamped into place, and that'll add a lot of rigidity, and we'll also do cross braces in at least 2 places. Okay, I keep saying that I want to keep this simple with stuff that's readily available. Now, this is Plastruct. Any local hobby shop that carries, model railroads and RC cars and, that kind of thing will have it. And this is the 1/8 inch thick. And I've used that to make a couple of cross braces. You can see that they're right here. Now, these will take advantage of the existing structure in that I'll use gap filling super glue, and I'll be able to glue to the back of this gusset and along the wall, and the same thing on the other side. And then for this other one, I'm going to use the front of the battery box. I'll have super glue along the front of the battery box and along both edges, and you can see that this side has been notched to allow for the travel of the swing arm in there. I'll have to be very careful gluing that. We don't want to get, a bunch of runoff going everywhere. Had to notch the front a little bit so it sits right down on the ledge at the front of the battery box, and I'll have that entire surface behind there as a glue surface. And then after I'm have it all in place, I'll go back with the gap filling and I'll add an extra fillet of super glue on both sides at the ends. And that should really help with the rigidity of the frame itself. In addition to, I've got the 2 pieces of angle aluminum which have been notched. Now this is for clearance on the turret rotation ring because that's a very tight fit in there. And then I'm going to use one of the steel braces that I got from Eric across the back, right in front of the motors. Now these are obviously still the plastic motors, but I have the ball bearing black steel gearboxes for these, which are the same configuration and should fit pretty much exactly the same. You can see that I've already cut the wires on this. That was testing the Komodo. Since it's going to stay on the stock Hang-Long electronics, we're going to put a Komodo in it to get rid of the anti-track recoil. And I'm fairly certain I'm also going to replace this speaker either with a stock Tigen or with the dual Mado speakers to see what happens there. This tank is really closed up, so it's hard for the sound to get out, so we'll have to see. But that's where we're at so far on the bracing. And okay, 2 equal parts epoxy. I mix them up with a popsicle stick. I use an acid brush, that's what we call them. I don't know, you might know by a different name. And I'm just going to brush the epoxy. I'm trying to make it so my hands aren't blocking your view. I sure hope I mixed enough. brush a nice coat of epoxy on the angle iron. Well, that worked out just right. If it was, am I good or did I just get lucky? Well, it doesn't really matter because I'd rather have luck than skill any day. Okay, so now being careful. You might want to wear gloves for this, or I guess it depends on personal preference. Just going to set it in there. Now I'm going to take this whole mess, set it off to the side. Going to cap up the epoxy. Move it out of the way. Now, going to make sure this is properly set. I got my clamps laid out. You can see on the other side, this is just a dry fit with the clamps. It's always a good idea to dry fit and see how everything's going to fit together. I must have checked this 15 times for that turret rotation ring. Having lots of little fancy plastic clamps is always a very good idea. It will make you a better person. You'll make more money. You'll be able to quit smoking. I mean, just little clamps are amazing. You won't believe all the things they'll do for you. Let's do that a different way. You'll see how much of this gets edited out. Now, I'm not squeezing the crap out of it. I'm just making sure it's got a nice, tight seal. Okay, now that's 5-minute epoxy, so I'll let it sit for about a half an hour. And there's all the metal parts ready for primer, and then they'll get airbrushed. For primer, I'm just going to use spray can primer. Self-etching is obviously a good thing, and Rust-Oleum does make a self-etching primer, but they don't call it self-etching primer. They call it rusty metal primer, but it is self-etching, and I'm not entirely sure if it matters or not, but just as a precaution, I went ahead and tore little squares of tape and stuck them over the bearings. These are the back sides of all the road wheels, so it's not a super critical area, but we do want to get some primer on there. Here we have the gearboxes for the Abrams being broken in. I don't know if you can tell from out here, but those are ball bearings on the side there. Okay, I'm just going to do one of these, but there's a bunch of them to do. The hole it's a little big, but it's okay for 3mm by 0.5 tap. I just put a little drop of 3-in-1 oil on there. If I was at the shop, I'd use Tap Magic, but like I said, the hole's a little big. I probably got my hand right in the way and you can't see anything. But I like to use a 2-flute tap and just tapping by hand. Just start it in straight. It'll follow right along, and I'll go all the way through on this, as deep as the tap will go. And I'll use a long screw if I can, because it doesn't hurt anything. It's just, more thread surface. And I will Loctite these. Now there, it just broke through, so that's a pretty deep hole in there. At the road wheels, the rubber tires, if you look closely, one of the inside, I don't know what to call it, but one of the lips on the inside is a little thicker than the other, and that goes towards the outside. So if it's on the inside wheel, it goes towards the inside of the tank, and if it's on the outside wheel, it goes towards the outside of the tank. There's a pretty noticeable difference, so it's not difficult to determined, and they fit really nice. They pop right on with no problem. Now, I found, after some experimentation, that a 4-inch strip of bare metal foil is just about perfect. 10 millimeters wide. That's not a good strip. It's got a bad cut. You don't want to let it get down onto that face, because you want the bearing to seat all the way down to that face or shoulder right there. And then I just take it and I just burnish it with my fingers. Just spin around the direction I was twisting it on. Take my fingernail and go right along the face. Bare metal foil polishes down really nice. You guys probably can't see any of this. Sorry. Okay, so once it's coated in bare metal foil, it's been tapped. Bring it all the way down. Washer and machine screw, 3 millimeter by 0.5. Now, once everything's set, these screws will all be removed one at a time, and a Loctite will be put on them, and they'll be put back in. Okay, that's good. Wow, see, the wobble is so much better with that bare metal foil on there. It just really makes things fit the way they're supposed to. You guys probably didn't see any of that, did you? I'm going to have to redo this video about 14 times. It's alright, I got 14 road wheels to do. In case you're wondering if that little strip of bare metal foil makes all that much difference, this road wheel has the bare metal foil. So does this one. Very, very little wobble. This one does not have bare metal foil. See a difference there? Okay, since the instructions for the Handtech are in German and not that clear, this is what they want you to do. You're going to remove the stock mounting point for the idler, okay? I cut it off with a razor saw and then smoothed it out with a sanding stick. You're going to take one side of your Handtech and you're going to disassemble it until you have just this piece. Alright, this is, you'll see when you get it, you're going to have to enlarge the hole that's left when you remove the stock mount. When you remove the stock mount, there'll be a hole right there. You're going to have to enlarge it just a little bit. 5 30-second drill bit is what I used. Now you're going to take that piece and put it in there and rotate it until it's straight up and down. Okay? Then you're going to take your 5 30-second drill bit and put it in there and twist it. And that's going to mark your hole. So once you have that marked, now you know where to drill your hole. You're going to start with probably like a 5 30-second or a 1/8, and then do a 10 millimeter hole right there. And then the Handtech plate will go in that hole and mount right there. And when you put your piece back in, your idler axle will hang right where it did when it was stock. You're going to need this hole to be in the same place that this hole is right now. And that's how you're going to do it. Put that one in there, mark it, pull it out, drill your hole, then install your Hentech. Probably not any clearer than it was before, is it? See you next time. Okay, now the Hentech is installed, and that's a pretty straightforward installation, but the instructions are in German, which is not my native language, and it was a little confusing. So I went ahead and used Google just to translate what was written here, and I'll post that if anybody needs it. And once I figured out what they were doing here as far as lining up the location for the Hentech, then I was good to go. I didn't need this for the stock idler wheel. I used the brass, or I used the bearing version, so I had to make my own post for that. I'm not sure what I would have done if I wasn't a machinist, but anyway, I took care of the problem and everything's good to go. So next will be the swing arms. Okay, this is the Hentech idler for the Abrams, and these are the metal idlers with bearings. Now this is the shaft that comes with the Hentech. It slides out, and the problem is that this shaft is too small. This is a 4mm shaft, and the inside diameter of this bearing is 5mm. So that's just not going to work. So I had to come up with something, and the fix is this right here. This is just a little piece of steel. It's this stuff we get at work. It's called H13. It's got real high nickel content, so it's really tough. But all I did was I put a piece in the lathe, okay, and I turned it back until the diameter of the larger section fit the idler, okay, and then I turned down this section so that it would fit in the Hentech. Okay, so then I parted it off, turned it around, put it in a little chuck in the Bridgeport, and I drilled it and tapped it for the 3mm socket head cap screw that comes with the hang long gearboxes, the 3mm one. So that's now got a tapped hole in the end of it. And I think I said something about that the other day. These funny little bolts, the technical term is socket head cap screw. So you learn something new every day. So anyway, all I got to do now to fix it is I take my Hentech idler, I put my post in there like that, I tighten the set screw, then my idler slips on there like that. Then I used the bearing, one of the bearings that came with the Hentech, as a washer. It worked just perfect. It was just the right size. Put it on that bolt right there, and I drop that down in there. Now I might have to go off camera for this, 'cause, let me see, maybe get my hex key, Allen wrench, whatever you want to call it. And I'll take this back apart later and, you know, put Loctite in there. But I just locked that down on there. Okay, and now there's very little wobble. All right, I think it's probably way better than stock. I could probably get rid of a little bit of that wobble if I shortened up the post a little bit, but I played with it and I like it right there. And it spins just fine. No problem. It's going to spin real nice on those bearings. Pretty sure that even the cap is going to fit down in there with no modification necessary. So there's the one side. And there's the other side already complete. So now I have it. Now I have bearing idlers on my Hentech ready to install into the Abrams, because I made those little posts at work. So sometimes it's pretty darn handy being a machinist. See you next time. Okay, here she is with the first of the road wheels installed with the new metal swing arms. Now, For me, I found what worked easiest was to start at the back and work my way forward and do one at a time. Now you can see that I've just finished this one. Before I started this one, I removed this arm. So when I start the next one, I'll remove this arm, then I'll install this one. Then I'll remove this arm, then I'll install this one. Then I'll install the last one. And it's a pretty straightforward installation. You'll be able to see that inside here they have two different holes for the pin on the spring. The stock configuration has the pin in the top hole, and that's what I'm using here. But if you feel like you need more suspension, if you've got a lot of metal on your upper hull and it's sagging too much, you can move that pin down to the bottom hole, and that will give you a tighter suspension that will hold more weight. So I'll put the rest of them in and then we'll go from there. Now you'll want to remember that these are side specific, and the way I used to determine which was which is if I hold it with the wheel side to my left, is that pin on the top or the bottom of the arm. You can see that these two, I hope you can see that these two are opposite of each other. All the ones that have the pin on the top have now been installed on the tank, and I still have to do the other side. So with both sides in, I think that it might be noted that for me, what worked easiest was to do them one at a time. And I started in the rear, and I would remove the one that I'm going to replace and the one in front of it. Then I would replace this one, then I would remove this one and replace this one, and remove this one and replace this one, all the way down to the end. And only on the first one was there any confusion for me, but once I got that worked out, everything was cool. But like I said, I just went right down the line, and that's how I did the other side. And I'm not sure if it makes any difference if these springs go back in the same places or any of that, but they did by doing it this way, by removing the one in front and setting it off to the side, and then replacing the one you're working on. By going down the line like that, it's easy to keep everything separate, so I know that all the springs went back into the same places that they were when I got the tank. Don't really think it makes a difference, but you know, just in case. So now I'll do the other side, and then I'll be ready for sprockets and tracks. And remember that all this right now is a dry fit. When everything is set and in place, I'm going to have to go back and pull every single one of these screws out and put a little drop of Loctite on it and put it back in place. Okay, there she is with all the road wheels and tracks installed. You can see already that the tracks are definitely too long. Even with the Hentech at full extension, they're too long. In fact, right now, the way the idlers are set, they're raised up so high that the upper hull top won't fit on there. It would rub on the tracks. So as much as I didn't want to have to take these tracks apart, I am going to have to remove at least one link, maybe even two. But that will make it easier to blue them. When I've got it apart, then I'll make them blue. I got that instant steel blue that Jackalope recommends. So onward and upward. Okay, the tracks and road wheels and idlers are now in place. I had to remove one link from the tracks. Obviously, I still haven't put the hubcaps in. All of those screws still have to have Loctite applied. I think the tracks run really good right now. I think they'll get better as they kind of, break in a little bit. Just on stock electronics. Trying to drive and film at the same time. I'm going to spin it around and bring it at you full throttle. It's got good low speed control too. And then it's full speed. Had one gearbox was making a nasty pinion noise. I'm going to look into that. Okay, just wanted to get one last quick shot of the lower hull before I button it up. Now, with an Onyx 3000 milliamp battery installed, the lower hull, what you see right here, now weighs 9.5 pounds. I have another Abrams, and when I unbox it and get ready to start playing with it, I'll weigh that and see. Or if anybody else has one that's still all plastic that wants to weigh just their lower, I think it's considerably less than 9.5 pounds. But we did add the aluminum angle brace all the way down the side of the tank. We added the 2 cross braces of styrene here. This one had to be trimmed at the top because there was a little interference with turret rotation. Not all the time, only if you tried to rotate the turret with the gun fully elevated. It would then rub on that second styrene cross member, so we had to lower that a little bit. The Hentech idler system also adds some pretty good strength in the front, and you can see the aluminum nut running down the other side. And then in the back we used one of the steel braces from Eric to go across there. Now I had kind of wanted to put a steel brace across the front too, but because that upper hull has got such a tight fit against the lower, it just, you can see where I drilled the holes to try it, and it was too close. It wouldn't, the hull wouldn't come all the way down with that brace on there. It's just too tight a fit. But it did get rid of a lot of the flex in the tank. All the bracing I think was really worthwhile. Let me see if I can get this set. Give you guys a little shot of. I don't know if this will work out so well. I don't think we're back far enough from the camera. Now it will still flex, but not anywhere near what it did before. Before you could just whip it back and forth. And like I said before, with that upper hull, with the 8 attachment points, it acts kind of like a unibody car, and the upper hull gives strength and reduces flex. So that's where she's at, and she's coming right along. After I get this done and get her buttoned up, I shouldn't have to open her again until I put a new board in it. I'm still not sure if I'm going to get the Clark board or if I'm going to use one of the 2 IBUs that I bought today, because Jerry was having such a sale. He had the IBU 2 Pro for $85, and that's like $40 cheaper than I can get it from Ian. And you know, I just couldn't pass that up. That was a really good deal. Sorry to see Jerry go out of business. It was really nice to have a North American distributor. Now I've also got just the regular simple sheet styrene splatter shields in there. They just kind of tuck into place and just keeps the grease from, you know, getting everywhere else. So that's where we're at. We'll see you next time.